Do you procrastinate? Because me too. Hello friends and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about all of the books that I have procrastinated, and procrastination it's great. I do it all the time. But we're specifically in this case referring to when I go into Goodreads and I look at the date when I started a book, when I finished a book. Did it take me a while? Why? In some cases it means that I should have DNF'd and I pushed myself through. In other cases, however, it means that I just wanted to savor it and I literally could not finish it. When I like a book, I'ma binge it. I'ma finish it so fast. I'ma be so speedy. I'ma be so speed lightning. I'ma be Lightning McQueen. I'ma finish it, okay? Then other times, no. We've got books in either camp here. We've got the bad, the good, the ugly, the things I could not emotionally make myself leave. So grab a coffee, tea, drink, snack, water, bus, club, another club.
Bus, club, another club, another.
Because we are gonna chit chat and gab our little lives away. Now let's get into it. Starting off with the book that inspired this whole video. A book that I don't even want to look at. This is Mother of Death and Dawn, more like Mother of Death, and that's it. Because I felt like I died when reading this book. This book, like, I what do you mean? This book took me 12 days to read, okay? I'm someone who generally reads a book in like a couple digits fewer than that. I had such a hard time picking up this book, and this being the final book in a series that just like absolutely rewrote my soul, made it so hard for me to pick up for a couple reasons. Number one, I didn't want to be over. Number two, every time I would pick up a page, they were at risk, and I didn't want to be at risk. So this book in particular has like, it has a very special place in my heart. I did vlog this book, and it's funny because this book was in 2 vlogs because I couldn't, was it in 2? Was it in 3? I think it's technically only in 2. I couldn't make myself finish it. It took me literally a week to get from 70 to 100%. It took me another week to get from 60 to 70%. Like, it took me some time to read it. And I absolutely love this book. I had to savor every single moment of this. And my heart hurt so bad for these characters. And every time I would pick it up, it was pain and it was sad. And I couldn't. It hurt. So this book took me eons to finish, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I really wouldn't. Speaking of books that took me eons to read, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Also, I'm realizing that these 2 books have been very out of order on my shelves this whole time, and I literally just now noticed. My Goodreads review for this book speaks on its own. I feel like it is very, very common, especially in the online community of the readerhood. It is very common for people to read books very, very quickly, okay? And that is great, cool. And a lot of times we do judge the books quality and our connection to the books and just like the overall starness, the star quality, if you will, of books by how fast we finish them. No sir, no ma'am, no they, not at all. I know some people read these books very quickly and I could not, and these books were actually the books that taught me that it is okay to take some time to read things, to savor them, to go through them at our own pace, to consume them mind, body, and soul, because it will consume you right back, okay? At Golden Sun, I definitely finished quicker than I finished Morningstar. Morningstar quite literally took me a month, okay? And it's funny because we look at 2 6-star series here. What do they have in common? They took me eons to finish. Also the fact that red and blue make purple. This is cool. Okay. I feel like we're supposed to be here in this moment. This is fabulous. Anyways, there are certain series that I look at and they feel like me, and they are my soul, they are my heart, they are my everything. When you are that deeply connected to a book, sometimes you just can't, you literally can't. So with this series, I could not. Red Rising, the original trilogy specifically, is so 6-star for me. I have not continued on into the series because just as long as it took me to read this book, I've been putting off Iron Gold for just as long. I'm really contemplating doing a cheeky little reread of these books. I was perusing and was reminded of the fact that there are graphic audios for these. And honestly, I feel like a space opera graphic audio could be kind of wild. So I may reread these, I may not before I continue on the series, but these books legitimately, when a book is so good that it is shaping you as a human being, she gonna take her sweet time doing it, and she did. So we've now talked about 2 really good ones. Let's talk about, I didn't think we were gonna get into this book so early on, but I think we have to talk about it now. Fairytale. I had such high hopes for this, to the point where I quite literally put off finishing this book for probably a good 2 months before I finally was like, okay, no. I still have to DNF this book. I thought about this book and I thought about it and then I was like, no, I'm DNFing it, but no, I really want to read it, but I'm still thinking about it, but I want it to be good, but also what is that? And also I hate it, but then also, but I kind of want, but I hate, but, and then I went back and forth like a friggin' yo-yo about this book. I ultimately landing on DNFing it. And I don't hate this book, okay? I want to be clear, I don't hate books. I think books, there are very few books that are deserving of hate. This is not one of them. This is very much so not one of them. However, it is deserving of my own personal dislike. That being said, I do low-key want to give this another go. I had issues with the way that the romance was done. Keeping this as vague as possible. So trying to keep this as vague as possible. There is a structure to this story that is either really going to drive with you or it's really not going to. Typically, the structure really does drive with me. For some specific reason that I cannot say, this one ended up not working for me. By the time we got to a certain point, I was like, are we done yet? Like, and this book is so long, and for what? Like, this book is so long. It is a standalone, so it does make sense. You are going through a lot of history here. She's chunky, she's doing a lot of things, okay? This book is very much so going to work for people, and it is not going to work for people. I, against my will, tried so hard. I mean, I tried for a good, like, I don't know, I read it for like 2 weeks. I put it down, and then I finally picked it back up after like a week and a half, and I was like, oh, maybe I can do it, and I DNF'd it at like 50%. I made it to 70%, and I was like, listen, it's been like 3 months at this point. I have to put this down. So I finally put it down. I still am mad about it. But I have such a toxic relationship with this book because I want to love it, and every time I hear people talk about it, I'm like, oh, she sounds like she is that girl, and I DNF'd it. I finally DNF'd it. So I am a dog with a bone. I'm gonna come back for more. I low-key really think that I want to try this book again. However, as of right now, I DNF'd it, and that is that. And it took me 87 years to do that. Okay, I think we have to hurt more feelings. I'm not saying that I don't like these, okay? I did in fact actually like these by the time I was done with them. These books, for some reason, and I think because they're written like very differently from how a lot of books are, they took me forever to even figure out what was even going on, my guy. Jessica Hastings' writing style is very drawn out and slow, and she really savors every sentence that she writes. Like, she finds some way to really make you stop and like process what the heck you're doing. So I felt like I was stopping and processing a good amount, but also just the words on page. I had a reading blog where I quite literally only put these 2 books in it. Daisy Hates definitely read a lot faster for me than Magnolia Parks. Magnolia Parks just took so long for me to read. I do think that I want to continue on in the series. I am a Daisy Hates girly. Specifically, I'm a Christian, I'm a Julian, and I'm a Daisy. I like all of them. BJ and Magnolia, not my fave. And I think it's because I've only read 1 book. I've just figured out what happened. I didn't get into it. So the simple fact remains that I still have not continued on in this series. So not only did I procrastinate finishing these books individually, but like also I'm gonna keep on procrastinating the rest of the series. I think that I also did try to push through these books when I wasn't in the mood to read these at all. And I do think that when I'm in a slightly, I don't even know what the mood would be, but I do want to try these again at some point. Yet another inflammatory note. We have When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. I actually liked where the story went a good heckin' ton. I do think that the very beginning of it slogged so hard, and I think that it took so long for me because I didn't quite realize what it was. Like, I didn't get it. I was like, what, hello, what are we doing here? Are we still here? This has a very like flowery writing style. She takes her time explaining some things, and the writing is actually really beautiful. It's poetic, but at the same time, I was really kind of just expecting like a more fast-paced fan row, and I guess I just thought that this was gonna be more fast-paced than it was. This book is slow. Okay, she's chunky. You gonna savor it when you're reading it, and it took me forever to get to the end, and then we get to the end and I was like, oh, wait a minute. So this book has definitely grown on me. I think this was also a case of a book that I read when I was not necessarily in the mood. It took me, let's pull up the receipts to see how long it actually took me because it was a minute. Really? This was at the very, very beginning of 2024. I think that I had picked this up and then soft DNF'd it, or maybe even these Kindle dates are wrong because I don't remember this as being a month, because Goodreads says that I started this January 22nd and finally finished it February 23rd. This definitely has grown on me. So I would be really curious if I had had a better expectation on this book. Would it have taken me so long to get through? Would it have felt so sloggy in the beginning? would I have liked it better from the get-go? However, all of that being said, I initially rated this a 3-star, and then I kept thinking about it. And then I kept thinking about it, and I kept thinking about it. And I not only was thinking about the ending and where we left off and where we're going to go in the future books that sounded really cool and exciting, I kept just thinking back to different points in the book, and I was like, wait, I did not like it when I read it. So the more that I just sit here and have like some distance from this book, I'm like, wait, I kind of loved it. Now, is that a true way to rate things? I don't know, but that's what I did. So this book, every time I look at it, I'm like, what even are my thoughts? I mean, I liked it. I'm gonna read book 2, but I'm also kind of confused. But like, also, I could totally see how this would be some people's least favorite book in the whole world, and I could totally also see why people rate it 5 stars. So, she cute. I don't know. I have very mixed emotions, but I do think she's cute. Our next book, I feel like I feel like I could transfer all of the things that I just said to this book. Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. When I very first started it, I was like, are we sure that this is only like 440 pages? Because this feels like 900, okay? I did not realize that this edition had this in here. You guys know how I feel about annotations. We'll circle back to an annotation here in a second because I feel like it's like a great segue. However, an author's annotation is the coolest thing in the friggin' world to me. The Barnes & Noble exclusive edition of Ninth House. Why did I not know this? When you look at the very back of the book, there is a note from Leigh Bardugo. You flip. She annotated chapter 4. Incredible. That is really cool. This book is so dark, so specific that a lot of people are not going to like it. It's just weird. But for some reason, it works for me. I want to say that I had started reading this physically maybe, and then I got the audiobook a little bit after that or something like that. But once I switched formats, what do you mean? There's a lot of setup in this world. There's a lot of world building. There's a lot of, not really politics, but like houses and people and things that are going on. And you're like, who even does this matter? The answer is not very many. And if you kind of just close your eyes and stop paying attention to all of that, you're fine. If you really care about it, pick it up on a reread, just get through the story and move on. And I think I was so bogged down on the details that I could not get to the plot, and I just like couldn't figure out what was going on. So by the time that I switched formats and I picked up the audiobooks to this, oh my Lanta. And then I picked up Hellbent. I freaking loved it. And I am so solidly in the camp of people who are anxious. I mean, we're never gonna get book 3. I am fully convinced that Leigh Bardugo just will never. I feared that this is going to turn into a Name of the Wind situation in which it never gets finished. So I'm not manifesting that at all, okay? Do not take that as manifestation whatsoever. Please don't, I beg of you. I feel like there's just something special about this book, and there's special about this world, and there's something special about these people, and it's just special, and I liked it. Anyways, it took me forever to finally get to that point, and once I got to that point, I read it pretty quickly, but like, she did take me a while from the get-go. Okay, so speaking of annotations, I'm so sorry. We're not going to talk about this too long because obviously, there's no obviously. I need to. This is one of those books where you turn the faucet on and it just, the faucet being my mouth, and it doesn't stop. Anyways, 2 falls ago, I think, fully annotated Twilight. This is my most prized possession. I might have just wanted a chance to talk about this book. But anyways, the reread that I did in fall 2023, did I write down a date in here? Because was I that diva? No, I don't think I did. That reread will forever go down in history as the most time I have ever spent with a book, and the most just like insane experience of reading a book, because I quite literally took time to obviously add all these tabs, but there's so many little notes and like funny hee-hees, ha-has. I drew a big fat triangle of hearts around the word, literally the word Jacob. We love a prepared city girl. What a rude cloud. A bunch of random quotes about nightmares, followed up by, ew, baseball. She said, this is different, and I said, good one. Sad girl winter. Can't you see she's having a moment here? He said hello, and I said, let the stunning begin. Surprise! And when I say surprise, you read that in a sing-song voice. I went so ham on this book, and it's absolutely ridiculous, and every time I look through it, it makes me happy. But then also thinking back to that experience of taking quite literally, I'm pretty sure a whole month reading this book was so much fun. I would just take little chunks here and there and just took forever reading this book, and I procrastinated finishing it because I was savoring the heck out of this experience. So whether that book is Twilight, like I'm hoping it is for a lot of you, because I feel like I still feel very insecure about the fact that my favorite book in the world is still Twilight. Like, what do you mean? So whether it is Twilight for you or it's your personal Roman Empire book, let this be your sign there's something so vibey about doing in the fall, but like whether it is take a whole month, buy a cheap little thrift store copy, doodle all your stupid thoughts. The fact that I flipped to a page that in quotes says dumb teenagers, but it says stupid too. So do it. You might like it. Okay, we have a few other books to go through here. I pulled this in the pile just because I started Lady of Starfire and was like, no, I don't want to finish the series. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And I put this book off from forever. I picked up the Kindle book on April 28th. And I couldn't get myself to finish it. I couldn't do it. By the time I finally picked this book up, I took until May 31st to finish this book. So from basically starting this book to maybe reading like a couple pages here and there and then finally finishing it yet again, this took me a month. And what I'm realizing here, especially with a lot of the books in this series, I have a hard time completing series. And I think that's because after, especially last year, but also the year before that, I would just like popcorn read the beginning of series and move on and never finish them. So now that I'm actually taking the time to finish series, my teeny little peewee heart cannot take it. Like she's just fragile. She's just little. It's like the Grinch, but like he never improved. It's so teeny and so easy to hurt. And I think finishing series does do that regardless. And I think it's quite literally just the act of closing the series and being like, yep, I've done. I'm in the lore. I know what the lore is. I'm done. Why is that so hard for me? I don't know, but apparently it is because we have a theme. Okay, so we have Zodiac Academy Book 3, The Reckoning. This book took me from what my Goodreads shows as being read from March 30th to May 27th. Let me say that again, from 3:30 to 5:27. This book took me 2 months, okay? For a couple reasons. The biggest reason just being the audiobook. I really have found a great source of joy in the graphic audiobooks. I got part 1 from the library and started it before I had realized that part 2 was not out yet. So I read half this book and then had to wait, I don't know, like 3 weeks or so before part 2 was even published. And then I had to wait another week before part 2 became available at the library. So I have learned my lesson. Graphic audiobooks do, generally speaking, come in 2 parts. And just because part 1 is available does not mean that part 2 is available. I did really enjoy the series. By the time that I had that big long pause from part 1 into part 2, I put part 2 in the background a little bit more than I had put part 1. I do the same with audiobooks where sometimes I just have them on in the background and they're ready to go whenever I feel like it at some point, and then I just never pick it back up. I never like spend the time to binge it. I also with audiobooks sometimes have a hard time actually finishing them because I'm either in an audiobook mood, I need an audiobook, or I don't want to touch audio at all. Like I want to use my eyeballs. I do not want headphones on my body. No, thank you. So I think a combination of a lot of factors here, but also thanks Graphic Audio Productions. Anyways, I really like this book. I'll continue in it at some point. No, actually, similar to this book, I go through phases. I start a book and then I'm like, I literally don't want to pick up an audiobook ever again, and I'll listen to teeny tiny chunks of it, and then a month later I will have finally finished it. And that happened with Garnet Flats. I actually really like this audiobook. The voice for Foster I feel like fits what I picture his character being, so much so. This is a really fun series to just kind of have on in the background. I can just pick up a book here and there whenever. It's fun, it's silly, goofy. We love a good romantic suspense. I've had a fun time with the first 3 books. I would solidly recommend the audiobooks for these 2 because the audiobooks are actually, I like them. They're all dual narrated and I am a fan of the dual narration. Thank you. Wait, what's the difference between dual and duet? Let me phone a friend. The friend being Google. Dual versus duet narration. Oh, duets when they talk back. It's I have looked this up like 4 or 5 times and I literally cannot remember. They are in fact dual narrated. Dual narration reads everything in their POV and then it switches over to the next narrator for the next POV, and then duet is when they like talk back and forth, like they read their own lines and stuff. Okay. Yeah, we have to talk about it. Okay. I can confidently talk about the series now that I have finished Daughter of No Worlds. Tori has been joking about how a lot of people are either Crowns and Iaxia people or they are the War of Lost Hearts people. I am a Serpent and the Wings of Night person. I am a Six Scorched Roses person. I don't think I'm an Ashes in the Star-Cursed Keen person. This book took me so long, like so freaking long to get through. I didn't think it was actually that long. Read from 5:22 to 7:13. Are you joking? I clearly refuse to accept the fact that this book was just a little bit, I don't know. I think that following Serpent in the Wings of Night, which is a very fast-paced trial, fight to the death, a lot of plot moving, a lot of things are moving, there's a lot of urgency in the book. Transitioning from that into where this story has to go, I do think legitimately that this story had to go this direction. However, I was not mentally prepared, and I was prepared in my brain because I was in Chris's like Facebook group or something where she was talking about how it is a different story and it is just a different, like, it's just different. And I thought I was prepared for that. I was in fact not prepared for that whatsoever. So it took me 2.5 months. Is that right? I can't even math. 2.5 months to finally finish this book. This book is Rain and his daddy issues, and it was fun. And once we finally cut to the chase and like quit with the sad girl groveling that I just didn't know that was full sad girl groveling as much as I wanted it to be, I really like the ending of this book. And I do still think the Crimes of Diaxia is still so fun, but then I look at the book. Serpent in the Wings of Night is like one of my all-time favorite books. Six Scorched Roses, I love so much. I accidentally grabbed Serpent. We're not putting that disrespect on her name. I DNF this at 40%. The math is starting to math, and I don't like the math. I don't like it. I'm gonna ignore it, okay? I DNF this at 40%, and actually DNFing this book took me a while to finally accept the fate because I just wanted to like it so much. I love a vampire so much. I love Serpent so much. I love Carissa Broadbent as like an author. I think she's so funny. She's so funny. I like her a lot as like a person. From what we know of her online anyway, from what you can know of a person online anyways, I like her a lot and I wanted to support her, and I do still want to support her. She also quite literally had a baby, and like this became traditionally published and was like going through a different editor, and like all kinds of craziness happened. So I can kind of justify this book not being my favorite at the time. However, when book 4 in this series comes out, that is really going to, it's going to shape it. It's going to tell me what I need to know, even if I don't want to know that information. So I will be for Fallen, something, the whatever book 4 is in the series. I will finish this. So I'm going to pick this back up. I'm probably going to restart it from the beginning and see if like starting it from the beginning gives me a better shot. And then hopefully I'll finish this so then I can pick up the 4th book in the series, and hopefully I'll like it, which is probably me just being in denial, but Denial is a River, and that's a song I really do enjoy. Now, I screenshotted some other books that I do not physically own, but I feel like at this point, the stack is getting high. I feel like we gotta stop the faucet at some point, so let it be at this point. Okay. You guys know Throne of Glass is my favorite series of all time, okay? The first time I read this book, I loved it. The reread did not hit though. I gotta be so for real for a minute. When I read this and I was reading in the perspective of Manon, I was like, girl, I don't care about you. Are you kidding? And what's funny to me is that whenever you look at my history with Throne of Glass, there's a whole essay to be written. I'm mostly kidding. I initially picked up this series, read through Empire of Storms when it very first came out, and then never finished Tower of Dawn or Kingdom of Ash. I didn't even realize that Throne of Glass was in fact this series because I borrowed the books from a coworker, so I never had the physical copies to even refer back to. This book just like vanished off into the wilderness. And at one point I just kind of like casually picked up Throne of Glass and I was like, oh my gosh, that is that book that I read 8 years ago. Oh, I don't think it was actually 8 years ago. I don't want to do numbers anymore. When did you come out, buddy? Tell me your secrets. No. It would have been 2016. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. But when did I actually start rereading this? Hold on. We've got to go into the lore. I read this book. I started it April 1st of 2022. I finished it April 15th of 2023. This took me a year. Technically speaking, obviously I wasn't reading this book for a year, but from when I picked it up to when I finally finished it, that's a lot of time, my guy. My review for this book, I did rate it 3 stars. I said, decided to reread, and it only took me a year to read the first half, and then an afternoon for the second half, so 3 stars. I do actually not reading that. I remember reading the first half of it, and I know exactly the half is when a certain little buzzard boy walks in the room, and that is when it picked up for me. But the very beginning of it is very slow. We are dealing with like picking up events. We are trying to like heal from things. We're introducing some new characters. We're like doing the whole thing. And in my head, again, because this was a reread, I remembered things that happened in this book, right? The things the whole time that I read this book, the things that I was thinking of didn't happen until Queen of Shadows. A whole freaking book later. So I'm sitting here like waiting for the things to happen, and I'm like, what are we even doing? This is not even fun. I don't even like this, because the things that I'm thinking that are happening weren't even it. Like, what? And the whole reason that I picked this book back up was because I was buddy reading this with a friend over on Instagram. I'm pretty sure I had left a bookmark or something, but I picked off of where I left off, and finally we get an introduction, and then everything just flies from that point. So once I had finally gotten my little delusional self together and realized what this book even was, I finally picked it up. However, I was buddy reading it with a friend online, so we were talking about it. At one point I was typing out Air of Fire, and it autocorrected to Hermit of Fire. So every single time I look at this book, it's a green book, it's Hermit of Fire, and I can't correct my brain, okay? So if I had to pick a least favorite book in this series, it would in fact not be this book. It would in fact be the reread of this book. And if that makes sense to you, I'm so glad. And if it doesn't to me either. However, I love this series. Though after DNFing the reread of this book, I had said that I will never ever ever choose to start a reread before this book. Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight are fun, but they are like a very different vibe than the rest of the series. So I said I would never start a book earlier than this. I might not even start this book, and I might just dive directly into Queen of Shadows. Here's the thing, I really want to read the series, and I wanted to for a very long time. I think I want to reread the whole series, even though I was so staunchly against the idea even of reading anything that happens before this. So that's on delusion. Anyways, that is the end of the stack in front of me, being that the stack is about to completely fall over. So leave a comment down below. What is the book that has taken you the absolute longest to read? I think technically speaking, out of all of these, I think it actually was... We're moving on. I can't even say the words out loud. If you have made it this far into the video, leave a cherry emoji, because I've got the last couple cherries in a box of cherries in my fridge at the moment, and they are calling my name from afar. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel for future videos. I really enjoy just sitting down, gabbing, having a chit-chatty little fun time, and I need to do it more often. So stick around for future videos like this, because one thing we gonna do is have a fun time. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day or night wherever you are, and I will catch you in the next one.